Another successful No Kings protest in the books. I am so glad that I went, and I just want to talk about my experiences. Last time I went to the one in Atlanta, there were a few closer to me, and I don't know, I felt like Atlanta would be a bigger event, and I just kind of wanted to be part of a bigger event. So I took Ubers out there to go do the protest in Atlanta. I did put out a little vlog. I'm not really that proud of it. I think I should have put a little more care into the editing process for that one. But anyways, I did include several of the speeches, which I was very impressed by. They probably had maybe more speakers than they really needed. But they were so good. They were so good. So if you want to see some of the speeches from the Atlanta protest, go ahead and check out that video. I want to say it's somewhere in the middle. So this time I didn't really want to pay for an Uber, and I didn't want to have to drive out there and try to find my own parking. Didn't really know anyone who was going that I could carpool with or anything like that. So part of my decision to not go to Atlanta this time was really just the logistics. But at the end of the day, it was about more than logistics. I wanted to show up at a local protest. Especially in red states, people who are very anti-Trump sometimes feel like they're kind of isolated in that. And I don't think it's always the best thing for people to go to these local events and see how teeny tiny they are, and then see all these bigger events that these other areas got. So I just felt like it was important to me this time around to show up more for my own community. So I ended up going to the No Kings protest in Smyrna, Georgia. So I sign up a day or two before. I get an email at I want to say 2 or 3 in the afternoon the day before that the event was canceled because one of the original host had an illness. They just said an illness. I don't know if the host was sick, other people were sick. I don't know what the deal was. But I was really disappointed. So I was trying to figure out, okay, what other one do I want to go to? And then I get another email at 8 p.m. that we have a new host and the event is back on. So I think anytime there's those kind of switch arounds going on, you have to have some patience for the final result. So basically it was at Smyrna Public Library, and then we just lined up along Atlanta Road with our signs, and that was kind of it. And there's a couple reasons I'm not a big fan of that style. So first of all, when we all meet at the library, there's basically 2 speakers. One of them was our host. The host kind of gave his reasonings for why he volunteered at the last minute and stepped up to make sure that this event was still on. And then there was really just one other speaker, and she was just going over the issues of the event. She reminded us of some upcoming elections, which are very important to pay attention to. I feel like it's very easy to get caught up in just paying attention to presidential elections, so I'm very glad that those points were made. But other than that, she was just kind of pointing out basics of how the event came together and what we were going to be doing that day, and where you could get food and water if you needed it, where you could get medical attention, etc. So if you don't want to have a long list of speakers, I get it, but I really wish that there had been a solid rally portion, because when I went to the one in Atlanta, that made me feel so energized. And while No Kings is meant to be a very big tent anti-Trump movement, I still think messaging matters. And I think we kind of need to hear from other people who are part of the event. So I do wish they had a bit more of a significant speaker lineup. Or at the very least, if they didn't have speakers lined up, I kind of wish that they had kind of opened the floor a little bit to anyone who wanted to step forward. I'm really not much of a public speaker. I trip over my tongue. I tend to forget what I'm saying, but you don't want to be standing there reading off a piece of paper. I'm not the best with it, but for something like that, I would have got up the courage and I would have done it. Frankly, I'm thinking of kind of solo protesting a few times. First of all, why do I have to wait for a No Kings event? I don't. I can make a sign anytime I want to, and I need to just get my own megaphone. If no one's going to hand me the microphone, you know what? I got stuff to say anyways, okay? Now, after those words were out of the way, we pretty much just lined up along Atlanta Road and held our signs up. The atmosphere was just incredible. Yes, a lot of people showed up because they're angry at what's going on in this country, and that's 100% valid. But there was so much joy and camaraderie and just fun. There were quite a few inflatable costumes. There were some unicorns, there was a velociraptor, there was a squirrel, there was a banana, and we also got a Bowser costume, so that was pretty cool. My problem with lining up along the side of the road is that you can distract drivers. Now, did we cause any accidents? Was there anything dangerous that occurred as a result of us holding up our signs by the side of the road? No, but I don't like the potential being there. There are a lot of valid ways of protesting. I'm not saying it's an invalid way of protesting, but I much prefer some type of marching on the street organization where you're walking with your signs, you're making movement, you're out in the public, and you're making your statement that way, and you're taking advantage of the opportunity to stop and talk to anyone who will listen. So speaking of signs, on one side of my sign, I put the same message that I had at the last one, which is a secret police must not be tolerated by the American people. I am appalled that the American people are just accepting this. In many places, there are laws that if a police officer is pulling you over and you're by yourself, like, you have the right to drive to somewhere that is more visible before you pull over. And those are like basic common sense protections for people. People can do shady things. An officer can do something that they shouldn't be doing. An officer can do something that is violent and dangerous. Someone could be pulling you over who's not actually a police officer and has extremely bad intentions for you. Like, that is basic safety. It should be not only common sense, but also common decency that someone who does not identify themselves to you should not be able to just grab you and take you anyways. And the other side of my sign said, law and order can't be accomplished by masked vigilantes, which is ultimately what they are. This is not about illegal immigration. It's not about enforcing the law. It's about a bunch of crazy people who, a lot of which are being deputized and do not have the proper training for this stuff. And they don't care. It doesn't matter. No one cares. No one in this administration cares what happens to any single illegal immigrant. I promise you that. They are the most inhuman people. It is so disturbing and disgusting that these people are in charge. We can have masked vigilantes grabbing people, violating their rights, disappearing them, or we can have a free country. It is one or the other. It is not both. Border enforcement does not have to be like this. What is the point of solving the problem of illegal immigration if we sacrifice our soul as a country? If we give up all of the freedoms that we have? A government that's not accountable for anything they do, honey, they can do whatever they want to you. They can. That's the government that you're supporting if you support these people. And take what happened in Chicago, for instance, going into 100 different apartments with no warrant. Now, there are circumstances where they don't need a warrant, yes. And I saw a lot of folks defending that, saying, oh, they had probable cause. For 100 separate apartments, they had probable cause. Really? We have people being rounded up when they're here legally on vacation. It is so embarrassing how we're treating people. It is so embarrassing. It hurts my heart. There is no depth of depravity that is too much for Trump supporters. That is what this has taught me. There's no depth of depravity that is too far for y'all. Depravity is something they love. Because at the end of the day, I can sit here and I can rant and I can rave about I hate Trump, I hate ICE, I hate Christie, I hate all this other crap, right? But at the end of the day, what scares me the most is how many Americans are going along with this. And they claim to be freedom-loving Americans. Honey, if there's nothing preventing the government from abusing their power, you don't have freedom, sweetie. I am excessively confused by anyone who is still offended at people calling Trump a Nazi. Okay? We are rounding people up, and in some cases, sending them to foreign prisons without a sentence. What does that sound like to you? That sounds like just law enforcement? That sounds like just enforcing the rules? On what planet? On what planet is that just enforcing the rules? If you are locking somebody up, if you are deporting them, if you are sending someone away, the facts have got to matter. But if someone looks not white, it's okay for the government to take them and send them to another country for the purpose of them being brutalized in ways that we typically don't in American prisons. Horrible things happen in American prisons all the time, but the whole point of sending people to a prison in a foreign country is that they can do things that are unregulated over there, that are regulated here. You do not love freedom, and you do not love law and order if you support the government sending people to a foreign prison with no sentence. No trial. The government said they were guilty, and that's that. That's that. And you bitches are going along with it. Are you crazy? You bitches are going along with it. You guys are actually going along with the dumbass argument of, well, if the government says someone's guilty, I guess they better fucking be guilty. Really? After all the time that you guys have spent complaining about Me Too? All of a sudden, a false accusation is just completely beyond your comprehension. All of a sudden, a mistake by investigators or police, any type of law enforcement, is beyond your comprehension. Something that can't happen, huh? Man, y'all flip-flop fast. And just accepting the government narrative, that's what you guys are about now? No evidence needs to be presented. We don't need to think? Okay. All my life, I've heard a lot of American exceptionalist bullshit that such and such happens in other countries, but it doesn't happen here because we're the good guys and we don't do the bad things like other countries do. And a lot of that has applied to things like the justice system of, well, if you were in another country, they wouldn't even care about a trial. They wouldn't care if you were innocent or guilty. They would just do whatever they wanted to you. Well, that's how we're conducting ourselves now. So I guess we are not so much better than all these other countries that we insist we're better than. So when it comes to the prisoners that were sent to Brazil, for example, the argument was, well, we're getting violent gangs off the street. Well, first of all, I don't care if it's the worst of the worst. The facts still matter. I don't care what kind of horrible things you are accused of. Our government has no business sending you to a prison, whether it is in this country or another one, without information, facts, evidence, some type of presentation in a trial. Anything less than that is 100% unacceptable. So first it's the gangs, and then it's the workers, and then it's the kids, and then it's people who have legal temporary status. Well, we'll just revoke this. The amount of sacrifice and planning and hard work to come here the right way, for this country to just slap those people in the face and say, you know what, we just changed our mind just because, that is not okay. Do we have the right to revoke legal status? Yes, we do. And we should. But there should be a reason and a process for that. Is that really so much to ask? That we just think about what we're doing instead of just treating all of these people like they are garbage? Is that so much to ask? Also, when you think of things like the economic consequences of this, if you just don't care how rounding up this many people this quickly and getting rid of them hurts the economy and has hurt business owners, like, what's wrong? I thought he was a smart businessman. It's not about going after people who were doing things the wrong way. It's about going after as many people as they can, as harshly as they can, and they will not stop. If you actually believe, after all this time, after everything you've seen, that this is about enforcing the law, I have a bridge to heaven to sell you for $50, but if you call in the next 20 minutes, I'll sell it to you for $19.95. This is about people who hate a certain type of person. That is what it boils down to. You know, I remember when Trump made some racist remarks back in 2016, and there actually was pushback among Republicans back then. The Republican Party was still somewhat normal before Trump entered the mix. But for those that I know in my life who jumped to his defense and made the argument that he should be able to say racist things, they made the argument that it's his personal opinion. Oh, personal opinion. Okay. It's your personal opinion if it's something that only applies to your personal life. If you are running for office, if you hold a political position, your racism is not a personal opinion, which you are entitled to. It's something that's going to become policy. Your racism will impact policy. And that is what we're seeing today. And on the campaign, and even today, we see so much argument that racist things are not racist. And to be perfectly frank, that is how we got here. That is how we're in this mess. And even if you don't care about any of the other things that I've said, let me ask you this question. If you're okay with what ICE is doing, how are you okay with them having quotas? No law enforcement should ever have a quota for how many people they have to grab, how many tickets they have to write, how many people they have to put in jail. None of that. Their job should be based solely on the facts, following up on leads, looking at the data, looking at the evidence, finding the suspect, charging them, arresting them, etc. Why do you think that you live in a great and a free country if you are okay with law enforcement being pressured to frame people? With law enforcement being pressured to not care about innocence or guilt. I don't understand looking at what's going on in the world and just not caring as a matter of basic humanity and decency. I really don't. I don't understand looking at what's going on and not being bothered on just a basic human level. I really don't. But y'all have got to wake up to the consequences of a government that has nothing holding them back. That is not a government you want to live under, honey. And maybe today it's affecting somebody else, but precedents are being laid by these actions. They can come back to haunt you. Limitations on government are part of a free country. And if we don't have those limitations, if the police can come in and do whatever they want to you, if they don't need probable cause, if they don't have to give anyone due process, if they don't have to use warrants in situations that would otherwise require warrants, we do not have a free country. So for those of y'all who chose this, at least admit that you chose to no longer have a free country. At least admit that, honey. And you guys won't. You guys won't admit it. Now let's take everything that ICE is doing out of the equation. Am I still anti-Trump? 100%. 100% anti-Trump. Absolutely. Yes, sir. From the bottom of my heart. Absolutely. First of all, what a stupid decision. What a stupid decision. You were concerned about Sleepy Joe? Really? This is the problem with dealing with Trump supporters. It's so much more than just disagreeing with you. You're fake as hell. You're not really concerned about Joe Biden falling asleep. Trump falls asleep in public all the time, and you don't bat an eye about it. So all these things that you say are important to you are not things that are actually important to you. Is there anything you say you stand for that's remotely authentic? If you cared about competency in the White House, Donald Trump would not be your guy, and you know it. He falls asleep in public. He rambles and rambles and rambles and rambles about the most irrelevant things, like showers and his hands and his crowd. Like, who cares? These scenes with the cabinet praising someone that they know is not competent is so embarrassing in front of the entire country. Oh my God, it's so embarrassing. To pretend the competency is not a problem is crazy. We're seeing his family and other Trump supporters publicly defend his corruption. And their argument is literally, well, he doesn't hide it. What? That does not make it okay. To be okay with someone having this little regard for that position and that power is just insane to me. He doesn't seem to know shit about shit. He's extremely stupid. I remember there was a clip from Obama and he said something about 48 states or 49 states, and the Tea Party just ran with it and they were playing it all over the place. How can you want someone like this to be a president? Well, Donald Trump said a few months ago that he had hundreds of governors calling him. Crickets. Where's the outrage over that? And that's an active duty president. 100 governors were calling you. Oh, really? Okay. The 25th Amendment exists for a reason, okay? Joe Biden and Donald Trump are people that those amendments were for. It is dangerous to have someone in charge who is clearly not up for the job. On top of that, what about all of this waste? Y'all were so excited about Doge. Doge lasted for like a month and a half, had a crazy, weird fallout. Donald Trump has always been a con man. Always. Okay? You can sit there in denial about that. That doesn't change the reality. I really do not relate to or defend or accept the argument that we need a great businessman to run the country. Okay? Government and business are different things. So if that's something you can't understand, that's kind of a problem, to be perfectly frank. But second of all, Trump has failed at so So many businesses. So many businesses has he failed at. And y'all call him a great businessman? Honey, if you save a bunch of money and then you go out and spend that money and then some, then you didn't save money. That is how the country is being ran. And what are some of the things we're paying for? Are they things to help the nation? Oh no. Oh no. Vanity projects, birthday parades, illegal military deployments. Part of the White House, as I speak, just got wrecked yesterday for Donald Trump's stupid fucking ballroom. And our what was once lovely Rose Garden has been turned into a fucking patio. Then you have dumbass things like the Department of War. Now, if you want to save money, does it make sense to spend money on changing names, or does it not make sense to spend money on changing names? It cost us billions to change to the Department of War. I'm not calling it that because it's fucking dumb. Pete Hegseth is a fucking child, and so is Donald Trump, and I'm not pretending otherwise. If the rest of you want to, have at it, kids. I'm not participating. And as much as I don't get certain things from Trump supporters, there are a couple points they will make here and then that I actually relate to. So, for example, for those who feel that they've been villainized by the Democrat Party, whether it's because of their background or certain narratives around, certain types of people, whatever the case may be, I understand people who are like, I'm not going to vote for people who hate me. Regardless of what's going on that election, I can understand where you're coming from. But why do you think I don't deserve that same luxury? Why should I support someone who hates me? Donald Trump frequently refers to Democrats as scum, vermin, trash, garbage, demons, etc. He's done that from the beginning. He's gotten way more consistent with it. When it comes to a lot of people on the right that I can honestly say at this point that I hate, what you need to understand is they hated me first. I heard rhetoric from them about who I am. So to expect me to not react to that and still be open to this guy when he refers to me as trash, go to hell. You would not accept it if I gave you that advice. You wouldn't accept it, and you shouldn't. You shouldn't accept it. I don't have to support people who call me a terrorist for having a different fucking opinion, which that's a whole other thing. Changing the definition of terrorist to people you disagree with is just insane. And that's honestly a very terrifying thing for people who are running our government right now. He is here to divide and conquer. He is here to enrich himself off the White House. He is here to be the big kid on campus and do what the fuck he pleases. He's not strong. He's not competent. He's not capable. He's a joke. Aside from ICE, any one of these issues would be enough for me to give this guy zero support and want to protest him. So, I mean, if y'all still want to be out here supporting someone who says he's going to bring down your drug prices by 1,000%, what else is there to say at this point? What else is there to say? Is there anything going on up there? Because it really seems like there's not. Speaking of how this administration has talked about the movement, I do think that we could have picked a different title than No Kings. Now, for those who are acting confused about it, at this point, they're being intentionally dense for the purpose of pushing a narrative, and that's fine. You do you. Whatever. You can pretend that you're confused. It's not confusing. The funny thing about Trump supporters is they genuinely believe in wait until something's a problem to do something about it. The whole point of No Kings is we don't want someone to act like a king. It's not about a title. We're not saying that Donald Trump is a king, right? It's about the fact that he's kind of conducting himself like one, or at least he's trying to. That is what we were protesting. That is very plain. That is very simple. You can pretend it's complicated. You know it's not. And for those of y'all acting like it's not bad enough, how bad does it have to get? How bad does it have to get before it's justified for us to protest? I've seen so many comments that are like, well, if he was actually a king, you wouldn't be able to protest. Y'all are going to wait till it gets that bad. Also, when it comes to things like referring to Republicans as Nazis, which they're still offended by for some reason, which I find hilarious. J.D. Vance just defended Republicans in a group chat who's saying things that they love Hitler and that they wanted to see their opponents in gas chambers. Like, it is fair game to refer to MAGA as Nazis. It is fair game to refer to Republicans as Nazis. The top people in your camp think that that kind of rhetoric is okay and will justify it at the national level. No, it's not rude or unacceptable or out of line to call you a Nazi if you're a Republican. 100% you support Nazi mentalities and Nazi propaganda. So what I've learned about Republicans, which is so disappointing and so scary and so sad, but so many Republicans are like, we would never let something like Nazi Germany happen here. We're a greater country than that. We would rise up, etc., etc. You guys would wait. You guys would wait for the very first batch of bodies to be pulled out of the gas chamber to be like, I think something might be wrong. Oh, now you think something's wrong? Okay. And rounding people up and putting them in camps, that wasn't a clue. Nothing clicked with you. Yeah. So if any of you are offended by being called a Nazi, my question is, why do so many Nazis feel comfortable in your camp? If you're not Nazis, why are so many Nazis comfortable in your camp? You don't think that says anything about your movement? I highly disagree. It absolutely does. Any movement is going to have some fringe in it. Any movement is going to attract some crazies. But it's become acceptable at the national level, from the White House, to support Nazi rhetoric. You stand for something or you don't, kids. And Trump chooses to stand for things that are evil. And the American public are choosing to go along with it. And, y'all say you want this country to be great again. This is an embarrassment. This is sad. This is heartbreaking. This is infuriating. But you don't think we can do better than this? Our government, our Congress, our White House, our president does not operate on an America First basis, which we were promised, right? We didn't get the 90 deals in 90 days, which we were promised, right? We did not immediately see an end to the wars in Gaza or Ukraine and Russia, right? We were promised that. Farmers are going to need to be bailed out again, thanks to the president. So even if you're not offended or upset by the same things that I am, how do you look at all of that? All of these failed promises. And you're still out here with this participation trophy of promises made, promises kept. No, he's not followed through. He's not followed through. And you know that. You know that. You know he's not followed through. You know he's let you down. You know that he's let us down. And you just want us all to live in the fairy tale fantasy that he's actually followed through and done the right thing on any of these fronts. And he hasn't. Everything Trump and MAGA stands for is about cruelty. All they care about is hurting people. Those are the values that America chose to have represented in the White House. It is absolutely foolish and misguided and immoral to pretend that there's anything great coming from this White House.